It's morning in Los Angeles and it's morning in America. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this is my morning political thought. Now, I will do the social media stuff, get that stuff out the way, and then, of course, I will do the side news stories, and then I will do the main news story. As for the social media stuff, thepurpleelephantshow.com is the main podcasting platform. The Purple Elephant Show on Parler, the Purple Elephant Show on Instagram, on facebook.com/, The Purple Elephant Show. Swing by the page, give a like. If you are on Twitter, at RealTPES. And if you are watching this on BitChute, Dailymotion, or YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, followed by the notification bell for YouTube. That will let you know when I upload new videos. As for the side news stories, let me go ahead. I have my notes right here and then also next to me on my laptop. All right, so first thing, Bill Barr spoke at a police chiefs conference in New Orleans. And what he did was he basically went in on the media. He was telling the media that they are hyperventilating over what's going on with the police right now. He also said that that a deceitful national media is seizing upon relatively few incidents to scapegoat police as a whole and cultivate a false narrative that our police are systematically evil. And then he also went and he accused the media of making police officers' jobs 10 times more difficult. And in addition to that, he also said that when a police shoots, he said the media was hyperventilating, and he said when police shoot a suspect armed with a knife, but ignore that poses a mortal danger to the officer. He said the press frequently seizes on the fact of how many shots are fired, but officers are trained to fire until they see the threat eliminated. And there was something else he said too that he also called the people who are the defund the police people, he called them the soft on crime crowd. So Bill Barr at this particular conference, which is obvious that his language would be a little bit more sharp because he's at a police chief's conference. So, but still, for him to even say it, kudos to him. All right. Now, next thing is involving the federal budget. The federal government spent $6.6 trillion during fiscal 2020. Now, for the fiscal year is different than the regular year. Fiscal 2020 is from October the 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020. And then, of course, now we're in fiscal year 2021, even though we're still in the year of 2020. Like we can forget that we're in the year of 2020. But now fiscal year 2021 has started, which would be October the 1st and go into September the 30th of 2021. Now, this is the thing. With what was spent, the reason that we spent so much is obviously because of everything that's been going on in the world right now and in the United States. But the funny thing is that before all of this craziness started happening, the United States government was receiving an increase in revenue. Because of the pandemic, it went down, and then we had to borrow money. Nearly half of the amount that has been spent, the 6.6 trillion, was borrowed. Now, some people would ask, well, before it was happening, how were we seeing an increase in revenue if the president lowered taxes? All right, I'm glad you asked. With taxes and regulation, President Trump was cutting stuff left and right, especially with regulations. Now, I'm pulling up something here as well in regards to small businesses, because some people don't know this. For the small businesses in the US, there are 30.2 million small businesses. And this is from, if you want to know what the source is, the website is 99, the 99firms.com. It's on their blog, small businesses. And it says, for those of you who are wondering what percentage of the economy are small businesses, as of 2018, 99.9% of U.S. businesses are small businesses. Currently, small businesses employ more than 47.5% of the private sector workforce in the United States and account for 1.9 million new jobs in 2017. And that was identified as the economic engine. Small businesses remain an integral part of the state's economic landscape. Okay, so 99.9%. And then at that time of 2018, 47.5% of the private workforce. All right. When people think about businesses and taxes, they think of, oh, well, it's these big corporations. But from this right here, this already lets you know. Most of the companies in the US, they're small businesses. And most of those small businesses employed, because obviously that's changed a little bit now, half of the workforce. So when President Trump lowered the taxes, that helped small businesses because people are like, well, why is he lowering the corporate tax rate? Why did he do this? Why did he do that? Why isn't he helping average Americans? Which also, average Americans got a tax cut too. Even the New York Times begrudgingly, it was either New York Times or Washington Post, one of the two, but I think it was the New York Times. One of them begrudgingly said, face it, you probably got a tax cut. So taxes were also cut for individuals as well. But the reason the corporate tax cuts were so important is because a lot of corporations, they can invest back into their company. Now, some corporations will do stock buybacks, and those are for the very large corporations. But when it comes to small businesses, if the regulations are cut where they don't have to spend money on attorneys, keeping track of all the regulations that are on the books, and they can invest that money back into their company. If the taxes are cut where they don't have to pay out taxes to the government, they can invest that money back into their company. When they invest the money back into their company, it allows them to expand. If a company expands, it allows them to hire. If a company hires, it allows them to bring on employees that pay taxes. Because if an employee comes on to a company, the employee pays taxes too. Those taxes go into the government. In addition to that, when an employee is hired, not only are they paying taxes into the government by the money that they make from their employer, by their that comes out of their gross income, their net income that they take home, they get to spend. That money also goes into the economy, and that money goes into the government too, because there are taxes that will be paid on other things, whether it's state, local, or whatever. So that's why corporate tax cuts are such a big deal. Now, do all corporations do the right thing? No, not all corporations do the right thing because, business is business. But when it comes to small businesses that are looking to get a leg up on things, because some people think just because someone owns a business that they make lots and lots of money, that's not always the case. It isn't. And for them to have that little extra boost where they can pay their employees a little bit more to retain their employees, because as you know, for those who own businesses, it costs more to find and hire someone and train them all over again than to keep the person at your company and that already knows what they're doing. You don't have to train somebody that's already been at your company for years. So there's other things that come into play with that. And people who don't know much about business and economics and things of that nature, they don't see all of the side stuff that goes on that are related to businesses. So the revenue was going up from 3.5 trillion to 3.7 trillion. And then, of course, everything happened and it went down. But I promise you, if the pandemic had not happened, more revenue would have continued to come in, and more revenue, and the revenue would have continued to go up for that. So that's what I have on that side news story. As for another side news story, let me get back to my trusty part here. Where are we at? With Nancy Pelosi. So Nancy Pelosi, I don't know what she's doing. Actually, I don't think she knows what she's doing, but she's given a 48-hour deadline, is what she's done. She said that if they can't come to an agreement in 48 hours, the talks are off. This is what she said on Sunday. So 48-hour deadline to reach an agreement with President Trump's administration on relief negotiations that can be implemented before Election Day. And of course, ABC spoke with her and she said, I'm optimistic because we've been back and forth on all of this. You know, legislation is different from May. And I thought that I had set my phone to silent, but apparently I didn't. But as for these negotiations, I would be shocked if a bill gets passed. I honestly don't think a bill will be passed. If they pass the bill, great, but more than likely, it's not going to happen until after the election because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want President Trump to get credit. She really doesn't. So I doubt that's going to be passed. All right, as for other news, there is an asteroid, but don't worry, the asteroid's not headed towards Earth. Asteroid's not headed towards Earth. What's happening is that NASA is sending a spacecraft. It's about the size of a school bus. And they're going to collect samples on this asteroid. And the only reason I'm telling you this side news story is because there are some people out there who enjoy the space stuff. And I'm one of them. I find it interesting. And one thing I found out was, so far, Japan has been the only country to do something like this. And this is an ancient asteroid. So this is going to be happening on Tuesday. So for those of you who are into space stuff, shout out the Space Force. But for those of you who are into space stuff, this is going to happen on Tuesday, where they're going to go and attempt to collect samples from this ancient asteroid. How they know this asteroid is ancient, I don't know the details of that. But they plan on collecting it and bringing it back to Earth. Sometimes I'm kind of funny about things like that because I'm paranoid and I've seen a lot of sci-fi movies. I'm glad we have the technology to do these things. I hope it works out well. All right. And then as for the final side news story with the landlords are stuck between the tenants and the lenders. Now, landlords didn't have an issue at first because there was stimulus that helped out the tenants, and that gave them the money to pay the landlords, and of course the landlords can pay their lenders and everybody's happy. Because there hasn't been any more stimulus, and more than likely, as I said before earlier when I mentioned Nancy Pelosi, more than likely won't be any stimulus, then yeah, they're stuck in the middle. And that is something, they were giving an example. I'm looking at the story here on the Washington Times of an owner who owns 24 single-family apartment units in the Boston area. He says government stimulus benefits have allowed his hard-hit tenants to continue to pay rent. But now that the aid has expired, with Congress unlikely to pass, with Congress unlikely to pass a new package before Election Day, they are falling behind. Heading into a New England winter, Mr. Aaliyah is worried about such expenses as heat and snow plowing, in addition to the regular year-round costs like fixing appliances and leaky faucets. Mr. Aaliyah wonders how much longer his lenders will cut him slack. He's like, we still have a mortgage. We still have expenses on these properties, he said. But there comes a point where we will exhaust whatever reserves we have. At some point, we will fall behind on our payments. They can't expect landlords to provide subsidized housing. So this seems to be getting worse and worse. Right now, is an estimated 30 to 40 million people in the United States could be at risk of eviction in the next several months, according to an August report by the Aspen Institute, a nonprofit organization. It says apartment dwellers and other residential tenants in the U.S. owe roughly 25 billion in back rent, and that will reach nearly 70 billion by year's end, according to the estimate in August by Moody's Analytics. So landlords are stuck between their tenants and their lenders. I hope that it will work out. I'm pretty sure it'll work out. Like I said, once the election is over with, they'll more than likely take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. It's just they're going to have to wait it out, sadly. Okay, now, as for what I want to talk about, the main news story. Some of you may or may not remember CHOP, which was originally, because I had to write it down because I forgot myself. It was Chaz and CHOP, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and then the Capitol Hill organized protests that happened in Seattle. Everyone knows that those blocks, it was about 6 to 8 city blocks, were taken over for the zone. That was when they were calling it a summer of love and all this other stuff, yada, yada, yada. And one person was killed. That person, another person was shot, which he's suing. And then obviously the business owners who were within this area that decided to succeed from, I feel like I hear someone's fire alarm going off. So, but long story short, for this, that area was allowed to go unchecked. Because it went unchecked, that caused a lot of chaos for business owners. Those business owners sued. Well, now the federal district court in Washington state upheld a lawsuit against the city of Seattle, ruling that plaintiffs plausibly present a case that they were harmed during the protests there in June. More than 20 businesses and individuals sued the city on June 24th, alleging severe economic losses and being forced to live in fear and among filth for weeks when protesters took over several blocks not far from City Hall, and city officials effectively ceded authority to the protesters. Their allegations are also sufficient to show the city acted with deliberate indifference, U.S. District Judge Thomas Zilli wrote. As the situation in the self-styled CHOP zone unfolded, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin tweeted praise and encouragement and told national media it could signal a summer of love. So I'm happy about this. I'm happy that they are being held accountable, and it's time that they be held accountable. And it will go to the Ninth Circuit. And I know, I have a feeling somebody's going to try to appeal it and send it to the Ninth Circuit. But for those who are worried when it comes to the Ninth Circuit, don't forget, President Trump nominated almost 10 judges to the Ninth Circuit. And that was back during 2019. So the Ninth Circuit has balanced out a little bit instead of leaning as far left as it does. So that happened back in 2019. So if it does go to the Ninth Circuit, there might be a reasonable ruling. But anyways, I'm looking at the time and I'm hearing this fire alarm, and I want to see what's going on with the fire alarm. So let me go ahead, get going. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting the show. I really appreciate that. ThePurpleElephantShow.com, main podcasting platform. The Purple Elephant Show, Instagram, Parler, Facebook.com/The Purple Elephant Show, on Twitter at RealTPES. If you're watching this on BitChute, YouTube, Dailymotion, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button followed by the notification bell, and that will let you know when I upload new videos. Until next time, be blessed.